So I know at this point, I'm like the millionth person to talk about Expedition 33. And trust me, I know the quicker you get a video out, the more views you get. But it seemed like the more I played, the more things I wanted to talk about, the more I liked about it. And no, I didn't just run through the story like I probably should have. Call me selfish. I really wanted to enjoy the game, and that's what I did. So let's sit down and talk about Expedition 33, why I think it's the AAA killer, and why I think it's going to change a lot of things in gaming, as we're already seeing some of that happen already. But before we get into that, please hit that like and subscribe button, help this channel grow. The algorithms have been kicking my butt lately, so watch it all the way to the end, share it, hit the bell, all that kind of stuff if you enjoy video game content and supporting a subpar YouTube video game content creator. Anyway, let's get into Expedition 33, and I think the best place to start with this is the story. As you start the game, the story is actually really intangible. Like, it's very hard to understand what exactly is going on and why everyone seems to be so nihilistic. But even though there is this sort of somber atmosphere about the game, there is still something very charming about this world, Lumiere. Everything seems to be sort of a throwback in a way, as you do see things like pianos and wine. This atmosphere that screams like 17 or 1800s. I know there's pianos and wine around now, but I'm just saying, even the vibes, like the way that everyone's dressed, the lack of electricity, record players, things like that just seem to call to this like time period. Although you quickly learn that this is not Earth and has nothing to do with Earth. So we're talking about a completely different situation here, one where people have the ability to use a form of magic. Also, for some reason, people don't live past the age of 34, and so they went on these expeditions to try to reach the Paintress. The belief is if they can actually take her down, then they will have a full life cycle again. The biggest issue they run up against is the fact that she is quite far away, and she's surrounded in some very tumultuous, dangerous areas where there is a lot of creatures that these humans, if you will, are just not really receptive to. They don't know how to deal with them, and they've never lived amongst them, and most of them happen to be hostile. So these expeditions filled with warriors, scientists, researchers, go out and they try to gather as much information as they can, and they do this usually in their last year of life, so they can document as much as they can and leave it for the next expedition to find. And so each expedition will keep getting further along or learn more and more about this world that they don't completely understand. Now, this wasn't always why the expeditions existed. They used to be like a rescue party, but we'll get into that later, or well, you will when you play the game, because I don't want to ruin anything. We take control as this expedition's leader by the name of Gustav. There are many in this expedition, but the notable ones are, for one, your sort of adopted daughter. Her name is Mele, and she is basically one of the youngest expeditioners ever at the age of 16. And then there's a science researcher by the name of Loon. They essentially make up your first party. After an incredibly chaotic landing, they have one goal: reach the Paintress and document as much as they possibly can, and that's really where the world opens up and you're allowed to explore more as Gustav. The thing that cannot be downplayed about this game is the character interactions, the development, and the growth. The writing in this game is so phenomenal, and it is brought to life by some amazing actors. Like, the voice acting in this game is top notch. When I say this, I completely mean this. These voice actors bring these characters to life. It doesn't hurt that there's also really, really great graphics. The definition of the characters is phenomenal. The world is super, super well defined and is just graphically impressive. Everywhere you go, it seems like something bigger that you haven't seen before, something more interesting, different. And I think that that's one of the most important things about this game, and why it's so eye-catching is the overall visuals. And a lot of the assets in this game could easily be put in like a Souls-like game. They're that crazy, especially some of the enemies you run into, the bosses you run into. Hell, some of your allies that you run into could easily be in Souls-like games. It has that mystique about it. Yet, unlike Souls-like games, you're almost encouraged to explore more into this world, into the individuals that live here, because you're not going to be punished with running into somebody who's just going to completely own your ass. Now, I mean, you can, and that does happen, but it's not as common in this game. And that takes us really into what I think is the other really important aspect of this game, and that's gameplay. Because it is a turn-based RPG, and I know a number of people who had just checked out. Nope, not into turn-based RPGs, that's not for me. Yeah, play this first, because to actually excel at this game and to be good, you need to have some lightning-fast hand-eye coordination. There are so many moments in this game where when you lose, it's not because you didn't strategize, it's because you didn't dodge, you didn't parry right. And yeah, they add that into this game where you don't just stand there and take the hits. No, your character has many options of countering, dodging, jumping. All of those are in there, and they're all given by different button prompts that they teach you about early on in the game. And while the actual button commands are easy to remember, the dance that you have to memorize with certain enemies is a completely different story. So as you can tell, this isn't just one of those sleeper turn-based RPGs where you don't really have to interact with the combat very much. No, this is incredibly active. Not to mention, and I think something that's more slept on in this game, is the strategy component. This is one of the funnest games I've played as far as the strategy goes. And trust me, I used to be one of those RPG fans who didn't really like to have to strategize. I didn't want to have to worry about synergy, and the only way to overcome certain enemies is to fully plan out attacks and to fully understand the build of your characters and how they work together. I didn't like any of that, but I will say the older I get, the more I appreciate that, because if you don't, it's just sort of like an autoplay game. And not to worry anybody, but not every battle is like this. Not everyone is life or death if you don't use the right strategy. No, it's just you can easily tell a difference of somebody who understands their characters and a character build compared to someone who doesn't. It can be the difference between like 3,000 hit point damage and 9,999. And that all comes by just understanding your character, because each character has a different mechanic about them. A good example would just be Melee. I'm just gonna go over it quickly, but she has different stances. Now some of these stances are amazing for defense and like really halving the damage that you get. And there are some enemies that will just unload on you, and it's really good to have that extra defense. But she also has certain stance that do way more damage output, and if you can get her into the stance and use the appropriate skill at the right time, you can do some massive damage. And that's just one small character. I don't want to get into all the other ones because this video would take forever, honestly. But I do suggest that you look into that. Like if you're going to play the game, one of the best things to do is look up a walkthrough or try to research it yourself. Either one, you're going to get the most out of the game and you're going to feel the most competent while playing the game. I'm not saying you can't just go in blindly and just wing it, but there will be a time when you've reached your limit. There will be some enemies, maybe optional enemies, but still some things that are going to limit your experience if you don't learn some of the strategies of the game. And before you go, well, I don't want to take a class to play a freaking game, don't worry, it's really fun. Like, it's incredibly enjoyable learning how to master the characters, not to mention the other aspects of the game. For instance, your equipment. There's always new equipment to find, which is totally fun. I love, like, just loot hunting, essentially, and trying to find the best weapon. You also have a blacksmith who kind of hangs out with you for most of the game and will upgrade your equipment. But then there's also these sort of accessories that you can carry. They're called picos. I think that's the name of them. But what they do is they will slowly start teaching you a skill. And you have to use some of your points to be able to equip the skills, and over time they themselves can lead into different buffs or different stat advantages or different things helping, well, just a whole realm of combat in the game. So those are really cool. Those are something that you always should be on the lookout for and constantly be interchanging. That's something I didn't do early on in the game, and I learned to regret that a little bit later on when I was like halfway through the game and I hadn't changed them at all. If you can believe it or not, if you played the game, you'll understand. And I guess my biggest takeaway is I could not find anything not to like about this game. I mean, I love the open worldness that they have about it, which is sort of a throwback to old RPGs. Yes, open worldness is a word. But where you have like a small version of your character walking around on a big map, then you go into specific areas that open up more like a linear style map. Love that. I absolutely love the music. The music is just phenomenal. In fact, I'm probably going to include a little bit at the end of this video so you guys can check that out. A really cool live performance I saw them do. The characters, the story, it goes from incredibly somber, depressing almost, if you will, to being really fantastical. There's times in this game where you really almost feel excited about the world. It's not scary, it's not overwhelming, it's not disturbing. It's actually really fun and very interesting. At the same time, there is that looming threat ahead of you. There's just so many things that this game gets right. For instance, the interpersonal relationships. Yes, you can actually develop more relationships, spend more time with other characters, and to develop a better relationship with them, find out more about their past. It really helps the story grow. There's so many things just like that are phenomenal, let alone the fact that the game just looks really great. Like, the game looks amazing, and I cannot say that enough. Because it's not only just the, ooh, it looks pretty and detailed and everything, but it's also the imagery itself. Like, some of the enemies in the worlds and just the makeup of the atmosphere is so distinct. The art direction in this was phenomenal. And I haven't glazed it enough. I also have to say that this game was made with only like 30 people in 5 years, and it's only $50. And when I got it, it was actually like $42 because I pre-ordered it. And when you think about it, that's almost half the price of Mario Kart World. And Mario Kart World took like a generation to make it. So I don't know, I'm not comparing it, I'm just saying it comes in at a cheap price, had a really small crew, they didn't take that long to make it, and honestly, I think that this is why it's a AAA killer, because I think this is the formula. This is what they need to do. Instead of spending billions or hundreds of millions on games and wanting them to be these massive, bank-busting experiences, they need to focus more on games like this, where they aren't putting as much money into it, but also just hiring the right people and letting them do their shit. And this really should be the strategy moving forward for most game companies, because without the gigantic investment, the CEOs and all these people who are not creatives are not in there bothering people. And so the actual game devs get to do what they want to do and make a great game, and yet it comes in at a cheaper price, comes in quicker time because no one's messing with them, and it gives the audience pretty much what they wanted, because again, they're not trying to hawk like DLC or microtransactions or shit like that nobody wants, and they deliver a really great product. Is this game gonna make as much as like Mario Kart 8 or GTA 5? No, of course not. But it also probably isn't gonna cost like a fraction of what it cost. And this development team can go back and make another game, probably in the same time it would take to make an entire GTA game. Hell, maybe we'll have another game before GTA 6. No, I'm kidding. But I'm just saying that focusing more on like AA games and not trying to monopolize the whole industry and the process of game making and development and marketing and all that crap, it could actually really pay off for these industries if they knew what they were doing. But I don't know, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on Expedition 33. Have you played this game? Have you checked it out? Is this one you're interested in? If you're a gamer, I'm sure you've heard non-stop glazing about it. Has that changed your mind? Whatever. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. I appreciate each and every one of you. Take care, everyone. Love y'all. Bye-bye.